Let's talk about loan payments, credit cards, and mortgages. If you want to take a minute and pause this video so you can write down this information that's written in blue and red, I strongly encourage it. Okay, so let's go to our first example. It says, suppose you have student loans totaling $7,500 when you graduate from college. The interest rate is the APR equals 9%, and the loan term is 10 years. So we want to know what's our monthly payment. So let's use this formula right quick. We have payment, PMT, and it's going to be equal to our formula. We got principal times the APR divided by the end, which is, the payments, monthly payments. 1 minus 1 plus APR. And you don't have to write this down. If you already have it written beside you, I'm just writing it down. So this next part. All right, let's plug in what we know. We know that the student loan is $7,500. And the interest on it, we're going to write in decimal form as 0.09, which is 9%. We're going to make monthly payments, so N is 12. We got 1 minus, then 1 plus that fraction. We're going to raise it to a negative, and then the N is 12 months times the 10-year period. I'm going to type it all in once in my calculator. Well, hang on a second. I'm going to do the numerator first, and then I'm going to do the denominator, and then I'll type it all in. So after typing it in my calculator, I get 56.25 for the numerator, and I get 0.592062695. And we're going to round to the nearest hundreds. We are talking about money. So the payment is going to be $95.01. Okay, so how much will you pay over the lifetime of the loan? So what we're going to do is we're going to take that $95.01. We're going to multiply it by 12 months times 10 years. And we're going to pay around $11,401.20. Now, what is the total interest for that loan? So you're going to take that $11,401.20 minus what you actually borrowed, which was the $7,500. And then we're going to know how much interest we're actually paying on that. And we're paying a total of $3,901.20, which is over half of what you borrowed. Or a little over, because 3,500, well, no, that's pretty about right. My apologies, I misspoke, because 7,500, if I divide it by 2, yeah, it's just a little over half. I wanted to talk to you just a little bit about student loans. If you do an unsubsidized student loan, the minute you sign that agreement, it starts drawing interest right then. Subsidized loans don't start drawing interest until 6 months after you're out of school. So say that you borrow for the fall term $3,500, and then the spring comes around, you borrow $3,500. Fall comes around again, and you borrow $3,500 again, and then spring comes around, and you borrow $3,500. These are 4 different loans. So say they said they're going to charge you 8% interest, then that means we're going to take that $3,500 times it by 0.08. And this is how much your actual loan that one time is. It should be 30. Okay. It's going to be 280. And then we're going to add it to, I was figuring out the total at the end, 37. Yeah, 3780 is what I was thinking. So 3780. So then instead of this being 3,500, it'd be 3780. 3780. That's if they consistently charge the 8%. And then we'll add all 4 of these up. So for the total 2 years of 4 loan drawn, it says that you owe 15,120. Then after you're out of school 6 months, you're consolidating this loan with the company and you're getting ready to make payments, and say the company says they want to charge you 17%. You need to ask them how they're compounding it. You need to make sure it's a fixed interest, because you don't want to have this consistency of interest increasing every year or every time you turn around, every 6 months. You don't want it to keep growing. So take that 15,120 times it by 0.17. So it's going to be 2,570. Add those two together, and now we owe 17,690.04. So you went from 15. We went from, and in the true borrowing, if you take the 3,500 and you add those together, you actually borrowed $14,000, right? The total of 14,000. But the 8% each time you borrowed, you paid 1,120 more, and then after 6 months later, you consolidate it, and then you're going to pay 2,570 additional to that 1,120. So remember, say you make your monthly payments, and this draws interest each month. It draws, so you say you make a $90 payment and you owe 17,600 the next month. Well, that's going to draw interest on that. So you're going to add on another set of interest. If it's per year, which would be great, whatever the balance is at the end of the year, you're going to have interest on that. So if you're not careful, student loans and borrowing money in this format, as well as credit cards, can be almost impossible to get out from under. So be careful about what you sign to, what you agree to, and do your best to get a fixed rate, meaning that it's not going to change on you every time you turn around. Also, just borrow what you have to borrow, and if you can stay away from subsidized, unsubsidized, I would stay away from it for sure. But, sometimes life gets in the way and we have to do things we don't always like to do. So just knowing that information can be helpful. Okay, so our next one says calculate the following for a home mortgage of $150,000 with a fixed APR of 4% for 30 years. All right, we want to know what our payments are. We're going to use our formula that we used above. We got PMT, and our principal is going to be that $150,000. And our APR is 4%, so it's 0.04. And it's going to be monthly because you make payments monthly. All divided by that 1 minus this parentheses. And we're going to raise it to a negative 12 times 30. And I'm going to go ahead and type it all in my calculator. If you want to pause it to check your work, I would. And this is what I'm getting before I convert it to its own decimal. And now let's convert it to decimal, and I get what you're rounding. So the payment is $716.12. The next question says, what is the total amount paid over the lifetime? So we're going to take that $716.12. We're going to multiply it by 12, multiply it by 30. And when we do that, we get $257,803.20. Now we want to know the interest paid. You'll take this 257,803.2, subtract that 150,000, and when you do that, we're going to have a difference, which is the interest that's paid on it, which is going to be 107,803.20. Pretty close to half. All right. So now we want to know what's the total percent towards principal and the total percent towards interest. So the formula would be for the principal would be the principal amount divided by the total amount. Okay, so the principal was 150,000 and the total was 257,803.20. And then when we're done, we'll multiply it by 100%. And after we do this, we get, and round to the nearest hundreds, 58.18. Now, if you wanted to take the 58.18 and subtract it from 100, you would get the difference, which is the interest. You could do that, but I encourage you to understand the method, the formula method. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our total interest and we're going to subtract divide it by our total amount. So our total interest was that 107,803.20 divided by the 257,803.2, and then multiply it by 100%. And after we do that, we get 41.82. And be sure and watch the rounding. You may be asked to round differently. Okay. So I feel like you could do this next one on your own, and you can reach out to me if you have any questions. Let's move on to the next example. So this next example says, for the loan in example 1, so it's talking about that student loan of $7,500 and an APR of 9% and a 10-year term. Calculate the portion of the loan's payment that go to principal and to the interest during the first 3 months. Okay, so I really need to make me some room here because I didn't have enough room in the table. Well, I guess no, let's just do it this way. I don't want to mess up the screen. All right, so let's figure out the amount to pay in the first month. Well, we know that we calculated that the payments, right? We calculated, I'm going to write that, it's right here. We calculated the payments earlier of $95.01. Okay, so now we want to see what the MIR is. So I'm going to take the interest, which was 9%, and put it in decimal. And I'm going to divide it by the 12 months, which is, you make 12-month payments. We end up with 0.0075. So we're going to use this percentage here. We're going to use this. And we know what the beginning balance was. So now I want to calculate the first month and the second month and third month. So on the first month, I'm going to take this 0.0075 and I'm going to multiply it to the 7,500. When I do, I get 56.25. 56.25. That's how much interest you're going to pay the first month. Now, to figure out what the ATP is, I'm going to take that $95.01. I'm going to subtract that interest of 56.25, and now I get 38.76. That's going towards the principal, right? So now we're going to take our total principal, which is for this next column, our new principal. I'm going to call it NP. And I'm going to subtract 7,500 minus that 38.76. And that's going to give me a new balance of 7461.24. So that's month 1. Let's do month 2. So I'm going to take that 0.0075, multiply it by the new balance. And that gives me 55.96. 55.96. And now I'm going to find the ATP. So that's going to be $95.01, because that's the monthly payment, minus that 55.96 gives me 39.05 on the interest now, or the ATP, excuse me. That's the principal part. Now to find the new principal balance, I'm going to take the 7461.24 and subtract that 39.05. And when I do that, now I get a new balance of 7422.19. Now let's find month three. So month 3, I'm going to take that 0.0075 times that new balance of 7422.19. And I get interest of $55.67. I'm going to take that new balance of 7422.19 and subtract that 55.67. And then I'm going to have a principal balance of $39.34. We're going to take that 7422.19 and subtract that 39.34. And it gives me a new balance of 738.2.85. So you notice that the principal is smaller than the interest you're paying. So it's very important to be aware of what your agreement is. Okay. Let's move on. The next example says you need a $6,000 loan to buy a used car. Your bank, roll back up. Your bank offers a 3-year loan at 8%, a 4-year loan at 9%, and a 5-year loan at 10%. So I'm going to highlight these things so I don't lose it. So 3 is 8%, 4 is 9%, 5 is 10%. So it wants to know what's your payment and your total interest. So let's look at column 3 right here, or 3-year. So the 3-year, we want to figure out the payment. We borrowed $6,000. It has an interest of 0.088%. We're going to make monthly payments, right? So it's 12 months in that year. And then we are going to divide that by 1 minus 1 plus the fraction. We're going to raise it to the power of negative 12 months times that 3 years. So when I calculate this, I get 40 over 0.212745.3, which gives me $188.02 for the payment. Now I want to figure out the interest, right? So that means I need to figure out the life of the loan. So we're going to take that. Found my pen. My apologies, guys. My pen kind of left the screen. Let me get it back here. So here we go. So we're going to take that 188.02 and we're going to multiply it by 12 months times 3 years. And that gives me 6,768.72. And we're going to subtract that 6,000 from it. And then that tells me how much interest we're going to actually pay for the month of the loan, or for the total duration of the loan. So let's do the next one. So we're going to take the PMT. We're going to plug in what we know. We get 6,000 at 0.09 9%, 12 months. So I got 1 minus 1 plus, that's 0.09 divided by 12, raised to a negative 12 times that 4 years. And we get, calculate that in my calculator, and I get, get my mouse back over here. I get 45 over 0.3013858. So that payment would be $149.31. So what we want to do is take that $149.31, multiply it by 12 times 4 years to get our total payments, or the total amount that you're going to pay towards this, and then we're going to subtract that $6,000 again. So I get 7166.88 minus 6,000. So our total interest that you're going to pay for this one would be $11,066, or excuse me, $1,166.88. And now let's figure out for the 5-year loan, which has a different interest rate. Okay. Let me scroll down here. Give myself some more room. All right. So on the 5-year loan, we're going to plug in again what we know. So it's $6,000. It's what you borrowed at an interest of 10%, 12 months, all divided by 1 minus that 1 plus that 0.1 divided by 12, raised to a negative 12 times 5. That gives me a payment of 50 over 0.3922114, which is $127.48. $127.48, which it sounds great, but you're going to end up paying more interest, and it's taking you longer to pay it. So you're paying more money out, right? So I take that 127.48 times 12 months times 5 years, and we're going to have a total, what, 7648.8, and subtract the 6,000 from that. And that total interest will be $1,648.80. Okay, so let's move on to our next example. Okay, so our next example says that suppose you have a credit card balance of $2,300 with an annual interest rate of 21%. You decide to pay off your balance over 1 year. How much will you need to pay each month? Assume you make no further credit card charges. So it means that balance does not go up, stays at that, you don't charge anything else, is what it's saying. And we're wanting to figure out how much we need to pay each month to get out from under it. So we're going to use our formula, a PMT. We got 2,300 as the principal. Our interest rate is 0.21, which is 21% at 12 months, divided by 1 minus that 1 plus the 0.21 divided by 12, raised to a negative 12 times 1 year. All right, so now that we have this, let's figure out, calculate it in our calculator, and get 48.7025 divided by 0.1879421. It's approximately $259.14 that you got to pay per month to get out from under that credit card debt in 1 year. Okay. So let's go to our next example. If you want to take a minute, let me get this on the same screen so it'll be easy to look at. If you want to take a minute, read over this blueprint, take note on it, and let's move on. So this next one says that Paul has gotten into credit card trouble. He has a balance of $9,500 and just lost his job. His credit card company charges interest of APR of 21% compounded daily. Suppose the credit card company allows him to suspend his payments until he finds a new job, but continues to charge interest. If it takes him a year to find a new job, how much will he owe when he starts his new job? So that money's continually growing with nothing deducting from it. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, A equals P times that 1 plus the APR over N raised to NY. So let's plug in what we know. We know that the $9,500 is what owes on the credit card. Knows it's drawn an interest of 21%. It said daily, so it's $365. It's raised to, or sorry, 365 days. Raised to the 365 days times 1 year. So end up with 11,719.2338, and I'm going to round to the nearest hundreds. So going to end up owing $11,719.23 by the end of that year before he starts making any payments. And just think about it, if it's still growing daily as far as 21% interest goes, that even though he starts making his payments, that 11,000 is going to continue to grow the next day and the next day. So that's pretty rough. All right, so what we need to do next is we're going to take that to figure out the total interest, right? We're going to take the total loan. We're going to minus the principal. So the total loan was 11,719.23 minus the 9,500. So in that 1 year's time, not talking the day after, just that 1 year's time, he's got grown or increased to $2,219.23 in just interest alone. All right. So let's do our next example. I'll let you take a minute. You can write down all this information in blueprint or screenshot it. Or at least write down certain points. We do need to acknowledge that whenever we're talking about points in a loan, so with banks, you know, the variety of costs or fees charges as points were, that points are going to be 1% of the loan. So if you got 3 points, then you're going to take 1% of the loan and multiply it to that 3. And we're going to do some. Okay. So on this one here, you need a loan of $100,000 to buy your new home. The bank offers a choice of a 30-year loan at APR of 5% and a 15-year loan of 4.5%. We're going to compare the monthly payments and the total loan cost of the two options, and we're going to assume that the closing costs are the same in both cases, therefore do not affect the choice. Okay, and then we're going to select which option's the best. So whenever we do, let's do the 30 loan first, or the 30-year loan first. So we're going to take our formula. We're going to plug in our principal, which is $100,000. And our interest for the 30 years is 5%. So we're going to write it in decimal. Of course, the payments is 12 months. And I'm just writing everything we know. And we're going to raise it to negative 12 times that 30. All right. Now that I type this in my calculator, we get 416.6 repeating. All divided by the 0.776173. And we're around to the nearest hundred, so it's $536.82. So that payment for 30 years would be $536.82. Now let's figure out for 15 years. So we're going to take the same equation and let's plug in the 100,000. So we got 100,000 times, and the interest for it is 4.5%. So it's 0.045 divided by 12, all divided by 1 minus that 1 plus that 0.045 divided by 12 raised to a negative 12 times 15. Okay, my writing there got a little sloppy. My apologies, guys. Try to clean that up just a little bit. All right, we are getting there. All right, negative 12 times at 15. There we go. That looks a little bit better. Type it in my calculator and let's see what we get. And my apologies, 1 second. We got 375 divided by 0.49020037, which is approximately $764.99. Okay, so the payment went up. A lot of people's like, the payment's awful, but let's actually look at it. We want to know which option's the best. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this $536.82. We're going to multiply it times 12 times 30 and see how much that says we're going to actually pay in the end. And then we can do the same for the next one, and we'll be able to determine which option is the best option, that you're not going to spend as much money. You're spending the less amount of money. So this means that it's $193,255.20. Now let's do 15 year. 764.99 times that 12 times 15. So 12 months times 15 years. 764.99 times 12 times 15. So it's going to be $137,698.20 So the best option would be the 15 year. You're going to pay less money. I mean, you still got a good chunk of interest there, but it's if we subtract the difference between them, so you got 193,255.2 minus 137,698.2, you're going to pay $55,557 more if you go with 30 years. That's quite a big chunk. I would say it'd be better to do the 15 year. I know it's a lot of money, but in the long run, it's a lot better of a deal. All right, so let's move on. This next example, I feel like you can do that one on your own. So if you need to pause it, try it, practice. If you have any questions, just reach out to me. So now we have two banks here. We have Great Bank offers $100,000 with 30 years for a fixed rate of 5% and a closing cost of $500 plus 1 point. The big bank offers a lower rate of 4.75% on 30-year loan with a closing cost of $1,000 with 2 points. We're going to evaluate and determine which option is the best, right? So let's do the Great Bank first. Let me get find my mouse again. There we go. All right, so what do we have here? We have a closing cost. There we go. Let me get this cleaned up. So we have a closing cost of $500 for the Great Lakes plus, it said 1 point. And remember, whenever we talk about points, it's 1% of your what you borrow. Okay, so now I have 500 plus, and then it's 1 point times that 1 point, or 1% times that 100,000. So I have 1 times 1,000, which means it's 1,500. So the closing cost for the Great Lakes is 1,500. Now let's figure out the closing cost for the big bank. Well, the big bank said that it had a cheaper interest rate, right? It said 30 years, but it had 2 points with $1,000 to pay down. So you got $1,000 plus the 2 points times 0.01 times that 1,000. So now I have 1,000 plus 2 times 1,000 is equal to 1,000 plus 2,000, which is $3,000. Okay, so you're going to pay a little bit more down on the closing costs. All right, so I feel like you can do our next example here that you see on the screen. So I'm going to move on. Let's go to this example here. It says an alternate strategy to the mortgage option in example 6 is to take 30-year loan at 5%, but to try to pay it off in 15 years by making larger payments than are required to carry out this payment. How much would you have to pay? So that would be great too. You know, if you start paying more than what it is, even though that you got signed on for the 30-year loan because you said that you can afford those payments, but you double the payments, you get out from under it in 15 years. Well, is doubling it really going to get you out in 15 years? So let's try this. So what we know, let's use our formula. Our payment, we got $100,000 on that loan that we borrow at a 5% interest for 12 months per year, or a payment of 12 months per year. That 1 minus that that parenthesis of 1 plus this fraction, all raised to a negative 12 times that 15. So type it in the calculator. I get that repeating decimal. Okay, so sorry, got a little sloppy there. And then our denominator, which is round to the nearest hundreds, $790.79. So you really don't have to pay exactly double, but increasing your amount sure helps you get out from under it a lot faster. So B says, suppose you have a student loan of $60,000 and with an APR of 8% for 25 years. What are your required monthly payments here? So we're going to use the same method here, or the same formula. We're trying to figure out our monthly payments. Get my mouse found it again. Okay, so we got PMT of 6,000 times that 0.08 divided by 12, because we are talking about monthly payments. 1 minus that 1 plus that fraction, all raised to a negative 12 times 25. And typed it in my calculator, and we get we get 400 divided by 0.863763. Oh, that's gonna be bad. Let me write this where you can read it a little bit better. 0.8637638484, and then round to the nearest hundreds, we get, I'm going to write it here on this line, $463.09. Okay. So, and it just asks on the next one. I feel that you can do this next one. It says in the place of 25 years, calculate what it would be for 15 years. And I will give you the answer, but I want you to try to figure it out for yourself. It's going to be 573.39. Thank you.